If you're watching this video, you've probably at some point in your life stumbled upon the genre of self-help. Yes, I'm talking about those books with the shiny covers and the woo-woo words that promise you a better life if you only follow what they tell you to do within their pages. But while these books claim that they will make you a better person and improve your life, they have actually caused me an immense amount of suffering and pain within my own life. I believe that self-help books in the wrong circumstances can be very destructive. And after falling into the pit of self-help, I had no idea where this journey would lead me and the untold pain that it would cause throughout my life. My first experience with self-help books was a book called FU Money by Dan Lok. Now, if you follow channels like CoffeeZilla, you'll know by now that Dan Lok has since been exposed as a scam and a fraud. But 12-year-old me couldn't tell the difference between a self-help guru and a scam artist. So I read his book and trusted his words. I came across this book the summer before my freshman year of high school. This was a particularly lonely time for me. I had just had a big fight with my middle school friend group, and they decided that I wasn't going to be a part of the group anymore. I had a lot of spare time that summer, and with that time, I tried to cover up my insecurity through the guise of improving myself. Now, my parents have never been very good with managing their money, so money was always something that was on my mind growing up. So I figured that the best way to improve myself would, of course, be to make lots of money. That's where Dan Lok's FU Money book came in. It was offered as a free online PDF, and younger me, thinking that all free things are good, consumed it eagerly. The problem with Dan Lok's book though is that it actually didn't give any advice on how to get money. It didn't show me anything. Instead, it just made empty promises and hyped me up. It made me feel like I was accomplishing something, when in reality, I was just reprogramming my mind for failure. But because I felt like I had accomplished something merely by reading the book, I consumed another, and another, and another. It became this vicious cycle of consuming this self-help content, truly believing that if I just read another book, it would change my life and I would suddenly have the friends that I always desired. What I didn't know was that this vicious cycle of consuming self-help book after self-help book would have the opposite effect and actually plunge me into more isolation and loneliness. I started to consume self-help books at an alarming rate. Suddenly I had all these ideas about how I wanted to change the world and change my life, and I hadn't even kissed a girl yet. It also just created a lot of confusion in my life. I wanted to say F you to my parents and move away. I wanted to meditate while at the same time hustling 12 hours a day. I had all these conflicting ideas on how I should live my life, when in reality, I should have just focused on being a kid. It got so bad to the point where I truly believed that I didn't need to go to university to accomplish my goals. Now, I understand that university isn't for everyone, but it certainly was for me. My skill set was custom made for a university student, and I had absolutely no backup plan. People can have lots of good reasons for not going to university, but I did not have a good reason. I had no business plan, no backup, but yet I became adamant that I could carve my own path by the power of my own will. This eventually led to conflict with my parents, who started to notice my behavior, and they started to wonder if I was maybe going down the wrong path. But being the stubborn kid I was, I decided to take the book's advice and take some of the action they recommended. And I flopped hard. I failed again and again and again at different business ventures that I was definitely not qualified to do. I remember I started a website creation agency where I would go around to local businesses in my town and offer them services on WordPress. The only problem was my website sucked, but these self-help books had deluded me into believing that I was worth it and that my skill set was worthy. But as I'm sure you know, the market doesn't lie. And eventually I was faced with the cold hard reality that I was no businessman and I did not have the skills needed to make my FU money. At the time, I was very confused and sad. I kept wondering to myself why the things that I read in the books weren't working. What I didn't know is that the things in the book didn't work because they were simply phony. Eventually, a couple years passed and I started to crawl my way out of the self-help hole. I made new friends, got involved in school, started playing sports again, and I eventually started to resume what a normal life for a teenager should look like. And with that, I threw away the angst and the empty promises of the self-help books. But this led me to my most startling conclusion about self-help in general, which is that it preys on desperate people. When I was at my lowest, self-help promised me a better life, but the thing was, it was an empty promise. Because self-help authors are experts at identifying the pain points of their audience though, they were able to connect with me on an emotional level and make me believe their words. It influenced my thinking at such a young age and gave me thought patterns that may be irreversible. It made me entitled and ungrateful for the things that I had, and it drew me away from what real life is, which is simply working hard, having fun, making meaningful relationships. I had to learn the hard way that making some imaginary FU money would not actually make me happy. I found a certain amount of solace in my journey with self-help from scrolling through Reddit forums. I know that a lot of people have been down similar paths with a destructive relationship with self-help in general. While these online posts I read have been disheartening, they also made me feel better to know that I'm not the only one out there who's been down this path and has struggled with this. I've only recently come to terms with how self-help has affected my thinking and how it influenced my adolescence. And while I can't say I regret anything in my life because I like who I am now, I certainly look back and wonder what my life would have been like if I just avoided it altogether. Recently, as I've been going through college, I've come to the conclusions that I can make my own decisions for myself, and I don't need a self-help guru to tell me how to live my life. I really like this quote I saw by Alex Hormozy, who said that we need to take our own advice. We know what we need to do, and it's just following and listening to that voice that can get us to where we need to go. And that really struck me. It made me realize that I always knew how to live a good life, and that self-help was just a form of escapism. If I simply did the hard things that I knew needed doing, I could get to where I wanted to go. Now, I don't mean for this video to be a complete attack on productivity and self-help in general. There's plenty of amazing books out there that are based on science that have helped numerous people. I'm personally a big fan of books based on science, like Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, which can give you concrete actions to improve your life. In this video, I'm talking about the BS out there, the self-help frauds, the books that claim that you can merely think your way to a better life. I'm here today to tell you that those books can be very destructive, and if you come across them, I warn you to proceed with caution because they have profoundly affected my life in a way that is not positive. If you've had a similar experience with self-help or know someone who did, I'd love to hear about it. Drop a comment down below. And otherwise, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that it gave you some insight into how self-help can have the opposite effect. If you enjoyed this video, I think you'll enjoy my other videos about college lifestyle and data science and other things I'm interested in. So please check out my channel. Otherwise, have a fantastic day.